today's lesson. We'll just continue. We'll just continue further. Okay, so the previous lesson, we started out with presentation about actually natural and geological history of the Earth, and of course, creation of the life, as if we can talk about creation and evolution of the Earth. Of course, in this moment, when you know that your oral examinations will be a bit shorter, so probably this will be in a wide task. Don't be afraid of this task, because in every atlas that you will have a chance to use it, there is kind of a timeline written in here, so you can use it too. Okay, we had a couple of pictures in here, and gradually through the evolution of animals, we came to the primates, and that's why we start with the topic in here, and that's anthropogenesis. So I believe this was some place we ended up, and uh, what do you need to know? Anthropogenesis come from Greek word genesis, that you already know is creation, or just appearing, and anthropos means human in Greek language. So it is actually like emergence and evolution of humans, of humankind. uh, Generally, archaeology and history calls this period the Stone Age, because that was not the dominant material, of course, as we know from from the Flintstones, but it was actually the only surviving stable material. Of course, wood and skins and so on. But that was the thing. That's why we also you need to know a Greek word for this. That's Paleolithic. Again, lithium, lithic. It means stone in Greek, and paleos means old, and you should know these things. So. During the Stone Age, there was this evolution of humans, and that we call anthropogenesis, and it lasted approximately from, as you can see, from like 2 million years up to maybe this Mesolithic period, when we have late Stone Age, and actually this like middle Stone Age. The thing is that during this very long period, there were several human species. So it's really difficult that our ancestors had been there like 2 million years ago, because there were no Homo sapiens, like people of this form that we are today. So there are many of them, and actually even the kind of belief or theory that there was like systematic evolution, that Homo habilis evolved to Homo erectus, proved not to be true all the time. Of course, there was some kind of evolution, but many of those uh, people, or maybe humans, well, are not our ancestors. Generally, these guys, we call them also hunters and gatherers, because this was the main way of getting means of living for them. So hunt and gathering, I don't know, vegetables and anything they could found in the woods, some edible things, you know. For you, you need to know about like main four species of humans. That was Homo habilis. Homo, again, in Greek, it means human, and habeas, it's from Latin language again, and it means to have, like that guy with the hand. Guy with the hand is usually the guy who got. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry, I am back. Uh, okay, so Homo habilis. Ak bude signál inak slabší, decka, tak mi povedzte, prosím, dobre? Dajte mi vedieť. Uh, Okay, so Homo habilis means kind of skilled or handyman. He looked more like a primate. Didn't look much like contemporary people. But the thing was that, just like Shimpu, if you ever saw that, the gorillas are able to use some like sticks, for example, for picking ants from ant hill and eating them. You know, but using tools, even crows and ravens can use some tools and thread and so on, and rope. But these guys were able to process them. So they adjusted them, processed them in the way that they use stone, and it's not so easy thing to make a hand axe that you'll see the picture. And it took actually many decades when archaeologists and historians realized how did they do that. Guys living like about 2 or 1 million years ago. This was very long period. You will see also the timelines. Then we got the Homo erectus appearing, actually another type of human. Again, when we got Homo, it's a man, and erectus is goes to go up, to go upright. It's not about anything funny, but it's simple. It's easy with the spine. That's suddenly from the guy who was more relying on the hands, like using also hands to walk. These guys probably used back legs as the main one. So they got upright and they probably carried things in their hands. Also, it seems to be that the climate changed dramatically. Probably it got much colder, which caused the shrinking of the rainforests in Central Africa, and also places that even today we can't imagine they had ever been green, like Sahara Desert or Kalahari or Kenya or South Africa. So that at the time they were, and because suddenly it got colder, it actually these deserts started to spread, and their environment of habitability started to shrink. So these guys suddenly had to look for food outside of the forest, outside of the rainforest woods. And that's why to go outside to savanna, which probably was an advantage to go upright and see, predators around in the high grass. Uh, Other thing actually helped them to go even much further concerning geography, and uh, that was invention or discovery of making fire. Of course, fire had been known there before. You had like fires in the bushes, and you got lightnings and so on. You got lava volcanoes and fire around. But that was the thing that they realized that it's actually very helpful for two basic things. One is protection from cold and animals and so on, so you can just scare predators with a fire. And the other thing, you can actually eat more things, because when you have stone tools, you can kill the animal, but eat some antelope, okay? Just like fresh meat or flesh. So now when you can roast it on a fire, so you can eat actually whole of it, a whole part of it. And that gives you a lot of proteins, a lot of nutrition, and we don't have to be Mr. Bukowski, Mr. Bukowski, but we know that eating meat is good for your brain and for your muscles too. And actually, these guys started to be a bit bigger, and also their brain started to grow. That allowed them to spread from Africa to other continents, as you will see also in some videos. I believe they will have. I got some videos there. Okay, and even these guys is not the end, because another how they spread it out. So some at some places they were successful, like in Southeast Asia, somewhere else not so much, like in Europe, for example. But another after like another millions of years, a million or hundreds of thousands of years, another Homo sapiens evolved, and that Homo species evolved again in Africa at the same place and started to colonize and settle. And it did happen approximately between 400 and 200,000 years ago, when first species of Homo sapiens appeared. We believe that there was actually one guys, that there was this Neanderthalensis, and Homo sapiens appear or evolved from them. We can call them Cro-Magnon men, Cro-Magnonskí ľudia. Both of them are according to the excavations, archaeological excavations, that were most famous for proving that that's a new type of man appearing in Europe, especially Neanderthal. It's a German location, and Cro-Magnon is a cave in France, in Pays Vasco, in Pays Vasco, Basque lands. And this is how we call, actually, we are also Cro-Magnon men, actually, their descendants, Cro-Magnon men. The point is that they were not our descendants, as they proved that obviously these guys got extinct. But genographic research, I told you about genography, the previous lesson. So some hypotheses, and also I believe that I got like a very big eyebrows. I love meat, so yeah, must have been like Neanderthalens, this man. And the thing is that this genographic research proved that from 1 to 3, maybe up to 5% in some people, there is also genome, like DNA haplogroup from these Neanderthal people. So what does it mean? These people were not only killed, they were not annihilated, but probably there were some mating, and there were kids that were like a mixture. They were like, I don't want to say bastards, but like combination of both of them. We don't know whether it was by force or it was by like peaceful. But the thing is, the point that those who didn't cross, with Cro-Magnon people, so they got extinct. The thing is that also they believe that to be like troglodytes, the caveman, and stupid. But the thing is, they're very clever. And discovery from Slovakia, and that is, you'll see that the thing was a model of a brain of Neanderthal man or woman, um, prove that they got bigger brains than the Cro-Magnon people. It doesn't mean that they have to be clever, but because not the size of the brain um, is important, but how many brain connections in the brain you have. The size, not the size, but the form of the brain. The thing is that still they prove that they had some first burials that didn't leave or ate. They're like passed away, but they buried them to protect their bodies from the cadaver eaters and so on. I don't know why I wrote caves in here. I have to erase it because the Neanderthal people were living just like the others, and caves had been using like for many others, many centuries on and on. And the thing is that uh, even today we enter the caves, for excursion. But the point is that these guys were hiding in the caves at the end, and the last place they survived was in Spain, in South Spain, in Gibraltar. If you know Gibraltar, there is a big cliff, really high rock, high mountain. Concerning, of course, their size, but these guys, Neanderthal people, were living in those caves for couple of like hundreds of years, and at times when we believe that the Neanderthals were already extinct in Europe. So that was probably the last shelter, the last seclude, last exile for them, where they're eating birds, the seabirds nesting in these cliffs. Okay, what else? These Neanderthals are soon to be replaced by these Cro-Magnon men, and these guys are called Homo sapiens. I didn't mention what does it mean, sapientia. Sapientia in Latin, it means wise, wisdom. So this is the wise man, and wise man of Neanderthalis, and this wise man is actually wise even more. So they start to call him, but archaeologists prefer to call him Cro-Magnon people. And this is the thing, as I said, that we proved that there was kind of coexistence with Neanderthal people. So at one moment you had these people living in here, and still some Homo erectus were living, but not in Europe like in the movie Fight for Fire by Jean-Jacques Anod, but living in completely different parts, some in Borneo and so on. These guys proved to be even more clever, probably, because they start to organize ritual burials. What does it mean? It's not only they buried their dead into the ground to protect their bodies, but they, for example, shaped them in a proper position as this is a baby in the mother's womb, that is the mother's belly, and sometimes they laid some flowers and some tools or a powder, ritual powder that they spread on the corpse. And in this way, that was probably kind of a transition for going to another world, but probably not another world, but maybe rebirth. Because as you were born in this shape of a baby and you're dying, they place you in this like ritual shape again. It probably symbolized that just like you were born from everything we have from nature, from the ground, so you're going back to the ground and you'll be again reborn one day as maybe something else. It depends. The thing is that, of course, just like the others, they use this bone and also obsidian tools, but thanks to much shorter period from there, we have many things that were being preserved, like bone or obsidian tools. Other thing is that maybe we discovered many bones that had been used by Homo erectus or Neanderthals, but they were not, for example, decorated. And this is the thing that also Homo sapiens, Cro-Magnon people brought art, and they start to decorate bones and so on. Obsidian tools was another thing that appeared and started to be used, especially for the the tips of spears and arrows later on. So as I promised for you, we got a couple of timelines. This is a really cool one because it shows you 4 continents and how they start to spread for about like 2 million years ago. And as you can see, they didn't call them Homo habilis, but Homo ergaster. And as they spread to Asia, for example, to Europe, soon they got extinct because of climate changes. There are actually many ice ages, so-called glacial period, ľadovcová doba, and interglacial or Holocene, čiže medziľadová doba, like warmer period. As you can see, suddenly we got Homo erectus, but he actually survived only in Asia. And in Africa, he spread it and developed into something else that somewhere in the future would be, but I see, really complicated to route to Homo sapiens one day. And suddenly you see, they got extinct. But when? Look at this. This approximately 100,000 years. These people still living in Borneo, for example, in Indonesia. From these Homo rhodensians, and as you see, they were actually these guys, and approximately 300 or 220,000 years ago, there were Neanderthalensis people living in Europe. In Africa, we got 2 species, Homo rhodensiensis, probably very short people, but from them, Homo sapiens got created. These guys are living in Asia and still Homo erectus in Southeastern Asia and the islands. And as you can see, excellent spreading of Homo sapiens that use the climate changes and even short period when you can see. So if you had like airplane or helicopter, probably you could see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 various human species, and still they were not races. Homo sapiens are of all the races we know today, but these guys got real different skull, different form, and so on. This is another nice example how the hominid development appeared from Australopithecus. Actually, Australopithecus or Australopithecus signs is another name that is from Greek, and that is Australus. Australis, it means southern, and Pithecus, it means monkey. So southern monkey, but these guys, Australopithecus called Lucy, supposed to be one of the oldest uh, ancestor of humans. And as we have another discoveries from South Africa and from Kenya, there were more of these guys and of various shapes. So how they evolved, difficult to say. And Homo habilis, as you can see, there are also some changes with the bigger brain, also with a getting like a bigger, and so on. Homo erectus much bigger. There's like a discovery of fire, and very important thing, and already got this 1,000 cube centimeters. So this is much more important thing because we got also more sophisticated tools and so on. Probably language is in here. Neanderthal people, look at his brain, is much bigger, and about like 1450 compared to 1400 centimeters compared to Cro-Magnon people. So ritual burials and so on, first species of Homo sapiens, and finally Cro-Magnon people in here. And art is probably the thing. When how the evolution will go on, if you don't know, these are computers from like 1990s. Okay, so that's I think. Okay, ice axes were used as times of Homo habilis, so you can find them until Cro-Magnon people, and it's like basic tool for Paleolithic period, completely generally all. But mammoths as like glacial animals will come a bit later, just like hairy rhinos, and these pictures can easily be from Slovakia or from like Central Europe. Why not? Just like these guys were already Cro-Magnon people, probably these guys should remind Neanderthalensis people, but these are Cro-Magnon people, so Homo sapiens, maybe some deer hunters and so on from Mesolithic period. Okay, if you remember this, you got a cool childhood. Okay, when I mentioned caves, most of these like places how people lived was outside using tents, and shelters built like anyhow, and in case they lived in case there was danger or maybe to survive winter. I think this video was about Journey of Humans. I believe I can find it. Oh no, they're just pictures about okay movies or documentaries. Okay, so not anymore, but they used to be very good. Facebook contacts. Okay, so I cannot find it. genetic map. Okay, virtual foundation. Sorry for that, but I want to show you how humans were spreading around the earth. So maybe I will find it somewhere further on. Genetic map. OK, let it be. Sorry for that. Keď som tu, pozriem sa, že ako decká odpovedáte. Ako odpovedáte? Trošku mi to zamrzlo, tak si pomôžem takto. No a že či všetko OK. Dobre. Takže máte už nejaké návrhy, ja si prečítam. Dobre. Tie eseje sa vám páčili, čo? Ale asi viacej slov vám tam musí dať, že? I think essay would best for both knowledge subject. A ja si myslím, že tie boli celkom fajn. Veľmi dobre sa to čítalo, ste super a naozaj aj mňa mrzelo, že som vám nedal väčší rozsah, aby ste sa mohli rozpísať, ale viete, že aj toto je veľmi dôležité. V pohodičke karma to meškanie som si nevšimol, takže je to fajn. OK, určite viacej slov, áno, presne čo vravíme. Dobre, takže dáme si viacej slov a teda esej, ale ja si to ešte prečítam, decká. No more John Green. OK, dobre, žiadneho Greena vám nedám, už nebojte sa. Budú linky niekde, hej, počas týchto vecí, ale nebojte sa. Dobre, 25 minút, čiže máme ešte nejakých 34 minút, dajme tomu. So let's move on. Keď si toto potáš, mal si super deso. My samozrejme toto všetko pôjdeme znovu na slovenskom seminári, ale to bude niekedy, ja neviem, o mesiac možno, keď preberieme Československé a slovenské povojnové dejiny a to znovu toto rozbehneme v slovenčine, ale asi starších prezentácií v mene obrázkov chodia tkáčkari. OK, yeah, this is the one I was looking for. Spreading Homo sapiens, and this is actually Homo sapiens sapiens, not Neanderthalensis. As you can see, Neanderthal people already living in Europe and Middle East. Früher Hominiden, probably early first hominids. That means early, like people like humans. Okay, and as you can see, that the Homo sapiens, difficult to say where or what country they emerged, evolved, changed. Usually there are kind of genetical mutations that prove to be cool, not to be for disability, but actually ability, and they allow you to survive in a warmer climate, colder climate, better brain. I don't know, have the skill. I think Aristotle said, or somebody, that compared to monkeys, human is more intelligent, or compared to dolphins and to monkeys, humans are more intelligent because they got hands and with toes. So this is thumbs. So this is the thing that really makes difference. As you can see, spreading to Europe, okay, extincting Neanderthal people, coming to Asia, settling, sailing, voyaging, and also during the times of ice ages, they crossed the Bering Straits. For many years, we've been thinking, we had thought that they crossed it like on ice when it was covered with ice, but as later on, and this also climate change is caused, that the glaciers are shrinking and the sea level is rising. So on contrary, at that time, when it was much colder, and really much colder than today, so there was like big ice cave, but not up to here, but it was actually the thing that sea level like decreased, lowered about like from 20 to 50 meters. It means that, for example, from Netherlands to Britain, you could just walk. There was actually land bridge in here. The same to Scandinavia. Or in case of the Bering Straits, people could walk not using ice, but like tundra. It was just like a land bridge in here, and settling pretty late, already at Mesolithic period in here. Thor Heyerdahl, Norwegian archaeologist from 1950s, had a theory that some parts of Latin America were settled by people not from the north, from Asians, but from Polynesians of all Australia, Pacific Ocean region. There are many myths around, mythologies about people coming actually back from some lands in the east, and he proved it with actually a nice experiment. That's a nice idea for you, for your project works and seminar works, that how to make an experiment, that he made a boat similar to Polynesian boat from like these ancient prehistorical times, combined with some ancient Egyptian technologies, and with three other guys. Only one of them had some like voyaging experience, navigation skills, and actually one of them couldn't even swim. And they got on this ship called Kon-Tiki, and they sailed about 5,000 kilometers when they finally sailed on Tahiti. So there are a couple of movies showed about Thor Heyerdahl and his beautiful archaeological experiment about crossing this. Okay, so let's have a look at the video. I believe it will work because it's all the Facebook, so it may a bit change. Okay, so I believe there is some music, so I can put it in here. Okay, too bad. So what I say? So we have this uh, expansion. We have this expansion 70,000 years ago. Okay, so let's enlarge it at least. Okay, beautiful dramatic music, but you can watch it. And okay, you can of course some other descriptions to Africa and to Asia. And this is what I tell you. Actually, you can compare. This is the period of glacials that, for example, Thailand and Malaysia and Australia and Papua New Guinea were connected because the sea level was much lower, for example. Okay, so this is also explanation why you have different people like aboriginals, and then you have people of like from India or from of this Asian, Chinese, Mongolian like race. Some people may say ethnicity, and then we have these now Homo sapiens people. Okay, so this is the thing, 40,000, and Neanderthals go extinct shortly after. Okay, so this is Cro-Magnon people. As you can see, ice cape is rising and sea level does should be also decreasing. And during this period, okay, these guys, they counted that you see that this ice bridge was not ice bridge, but land bridge. Okay, so new things actually like 10 years, 15 years ago, we didn't have this knowledge. We didn't have this proven. Still, you can discover many things around and uh, things that we think that I teach you are suddenly like cool. Keď vidím tu na boku decka, čo mi ponúka Facebook všelijaké blbosti, vôbec nepozerám, ale pozrite si, odporúčam túto na Radio Express celý rozhovor Mareka z Mladý proti fašizmu v debate s Liviou Garčalovou z Kultúrblogu a výborná akože ukážková debata decka, že ako sa debatuje, argumentuje a ako jednotlivé rôzne skupiny majú. Dobre, rôznu argumentáciu. Dobre, toto tretiaci mali hodinu, veľmi peknú o Uhorsku. No poďme teda ďalej. Ja si prekliknem sem. So, the other thing what I wanted to tell you is that during this expansion of Homo sapiens sapiens, there was expansion also of their genetical information and how they were traveling and also living. So according to various things they were capable of living in various environments and climates. So that means that during this period, basic haplogroups appeared and spread it around the world. So that's why mitochondrial DNA migrations map means that what are the basic? Of course, Europe is really like crossroads together with Asia, but how they spread it and how, for example, A transferred, to various parts of the world. And M, for example, from Africa down to Australia. So this is also interesting thing if you ever going to this genographic test to Professor Ferrag, Docent Ferrag. So he would give you like also this information that you may be like N12, N13 group, which means that probably you may originate from various parts of Africa or Asia and so on. And it can be tracked to these years. Yeah, it's actually sometimes you have to have good luck for this. And of course, it's mixing. So today we are really like mishmash, mishmash thing. Okay, during late Paleolithic, people, as we talk about these Cro-Magnon people, as I told you, that the main thing that appeared and pop and makes the difference between Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon people is art. And we have beautiful two examples of prehistorical art, which are Venuses. You'll see some of them in later on, and paintings. Cave paintings are in many cases around Europe and Africa and Australia too. Uh, you know, there had been some discoveries previous year, but two most famous are Altamira and Lasco, both of them in Basque lands, but one Altamira in Spain and Lasco in France. What a coincidence that even Basque people got the oldest genetical information on mitochondrial DNA in Europe. People living there for about 10,000 years before arrival of Neolithic people. So still, they don't have to be the first settlers in here. Uh, as I told you about extension and Neanderthal, so that's true thing. Okay, maybe a couple of information around it here concerning art, that very often animals were being depicted in pretty realistic way, proportions, or sometimes fur was in detail, and humans very often were like depicted very simple way, more like allegories, for example. People were like amazed with this first graffiti art, with somebody like having this skull putting to mouth and spraying, splashing it on the wall of the cave, thus having this foot or handprint in here. The other thing that was really mystical for everybody was these like circles, like what is a UFO and so on. But it's very simple. What do you do? What happens when you drop a stone and in the water in the lake? So these circles, you know, the Doppler's effect. By the way, Christian Doppler was teaching in Banská Štiavnica Mining Academy, and he made some experiments in the valleys and hills of Štiavnické Mountains with the Doppler's effect, which he later proved in here. Okay, so these are nice examples of Altamira cave. Actually, when you visit Altamira, you probably visit only like it's like fake twin sister, because so many people entered it that moisture and breathing and steams in the cave starting to destroy these paintings. So they sealed it, and they dug brand new cave and make like perfect copy with also perfect copies of these wall paintings. And this, for example, buffalo, European buffalo, zubor, actually before birth. So this is also symbolical how life, circle of life, and giving birth, and it saw something sacred in it. That's why also Venuses are small, very small sculptures of women. Men were never depicted. Much later, only they like phallical symbols, you know, penis. So for women, obviously they were adorated. So today there is a theory that at that time in these prehistorical tribes of Cro-Magnon people, probably dominant were old women who were respected as grannies. You know, who is the most respected, who's the most beloved person in family? It's grandmother or great grandmother, because she had given birth to all of us. So in this way, they were like depicted as a motive of these sculptures, and this is very famous Venus of Wallendorf Venus. Uh, Three things, of course: big breast, very large hip, and detailed genitals. Insist that probably they're important about giving maternity and leave. So this is also the myth of a beauty is changing according to climate, according to social status and society. So in this way, this woman in the times of glacials was able to survive giving birth and survive giving birth and feed kids and children and survive, you know. So she was the mother, she was the goddess. Is it important to depict her face? No, face is not important. You can have pretty face, but you shall die because you can't survive in a thing like this. So this is symbolical, and you'll see some of more of them later on in Slovak history, but I will show you all of the pictures in here. So this is one of the examples of this buffalo in detail, and very often it was kind of stylization. So for artists, those who many of you are going to study arts or design, so these are really cool things like first early art and already excellent giving kind of archetypal, yes, archetypal style, how to make it like more artistic. The same way is actually from very late prehistoric, already I would say ancient times of Neolithic period of Scandinavia, people like riding some boats, but still being depicted like monsters. I don't know, giants, difficult to say. Okay, what is here? All these king paintings in the world. This is interesting also that something that had been discovered, okay, 4 years ago, and you can read some information, but there are plenty of them. Borneo, Jakarta, and you want to block it. And Smithsonian, very famous magazine. Okay, so you can see many of them sometimes being surprised. Okay, what else? So this is just an article. We don't need to look at it. Okay, and let's move on. Then we have after Paleolithic period, we got big changes because as I told you, there were changes in this Ice Age and Warm Age coming. So glacial and Holocene. In Mesolithic period, that was just the period when there was the last glacial period, the last Ice Age. But after which the Holocene came, the warmer period during which most of the animals, including Diego and many and these characters from Ice Age cartoon, uh, died out. Sorry for that, but they shall all die. And uh, what happened? That even humans probably were responsible for this. So what happened during this period? Cro-Magnon people already spread it all around, and including mammals or these rhinos, hairy rhinos, and cave bears, and so on. People start to do one thing. First, they domesticated dog. When you domesticated wolf, you domesticated wolf pack. Because there is only one dog. There are more dogs for you, and you just show them, like catch him, and not one dog, but you got 12 dogs. So this is like super ultimate weapon for anybody, and they can actually bring down a deer, for example, or a bear. The other thing that happened, maybe I should exchange it. Uh, because of warmer climates. Okay. The other thing that happened was that because of warmer climate, many of these animals had problems, maybe not to survive hot summers. Yeah, that can be a problem with the heart, heart blood pressure and so on. But the thing is that probably didn't have proper environment for food. In these not savannas, but in taiga and tundra, especially, they were having these pastures. So many of these flocks of mammoths were migrating to the north, to Siberia, especially, where there was still more and more like of these places. But gradually they got extinct because the environment for them was shrinking, and people with dogs were just bringing them down. The only thing they survived was the Wrangel Island in Siberia, which because of this melting of ice suddenly got separated. And just a coincidence, this island got separated not only from the continent but also from humans. And this allowed mammoths to survive much more longer, for almost 18,000 years longer than anywhere else in the world. And still, if you ever seen the movie, very bad movie, 10,000 BC, when there are mammoths pulling the blocks um, on the pyramids in Egypt. So it's fake story, but the truth is that there are still mammoths living in the world, but not in Egypt, of course, anywhere, but only in the Wrangel Island in Siberia, and they lived there until Bronze Age period, 1650. Still, mammoths were living there. So you see, it's not only that you have like limited time set for your species in the world, but because who are your enemies? And your enemies got these dogs, as I told you, and one excellent invention, that is bow and arrow. Bow actually was used early for making fire. Later on, they realized they can actually pretty make it big and tough, and they can shoot from it and kill small animals. So having bow and arrow and flock of like pack of dogs allows you to kill anything you have around. So what happened during upcoming 10,000 years and further on? Probably people really spread it out. This Mesolithic, like central, stredná doba kamena, they actually probably killed our animals so much that they started to suffer of hunger. And when you're going to kill the last antelope, the last deer, probably your children shall die. So sooner or later they realized it, and they didn't know what to do first. And we believed that then some great brains of not from DDR, but from From there, got from like Middle East, got idea that yeah, let's say like do agriculture. It's much better. But I can tell you if I can choose like the lentil soup, for example, and fried broccoli or steak. Those who are not vegetarians, of course, would pick up the steak. And the thing is that even today, it's not kind of a progress because you need like a lot of broccoli to be supplied, like the steak should be supplied. So the thing is that many people, including me, thought that probably change and move from these hunting the animals to agriculture and farming was probably not how to say a goodwill or like willingness to do that. Probably it was done by force. And what happened, and that happened that another climate changes about 10,000 BC caused that this environment just didn't allow animals to survive. Even did extensive hunting. So what happened is that people in Middle East and later on all around the world started with something that was called like Neolithic Revolution. Called Nova doba, neo, it means new, meso, it means middle, and they moved from gathering and hunt to food production, and they settled down because if you hunt, you have to migrate, follow the flocks of mammoths and buffaloes and antelopes. So you have to settle down at a good farming land with the fertile soil where you can grow crops. So this is what started between like 10,000, 6,000 BC in the Neolithic period, is that people learned how to cultivate barley, wheat, for example, that was in Europe and Middle East, but it was maize or corn in America, potatoes, of course, and rice in Far East, in India and China. So we can talk about early agriculture. Still, people very often forget about one important thing, that even animals, especially animals that cannot harm you so much, that they were being domesticated. So when you see some like sheep, wild sheep, instead of killing her, you try to capture her, keep her in captivity, keep her safe, feed her, take care of her so they can actually breed, they can have small lambs, and you can eat lambs, and from other lambs you can grow new sheep, and you can use them for cheese and milk and skins and leather and for milk and so on. The same thing with goat, that is actually very clever animal and very socializing animals, and even horses about these 5000 BC were being domesticated. Later on, even birds, some of the birds that couldn't fly, then in America it's turkey, for example, for us there were ducks and geese, and later on even chickens. So generally poultry, and for these horses, goats, sheep, and cows, for example, cattle. We talk about livestock together. It's not a coincidence that then these people, when they settle down, they completely change their way of life, and from they started to settle villages that were being stable, but they had to defend them. So they start to organize, they start to process metals, to have weapons and better tools, farming tools, and gradually upon these villages and these like urban centers, early civilizations appeared. And this is what we talk about: Fertile Crescent civilization along the Nile River and Euphrates and the Tigris River. That's in the places like Mesopotamia, Anatolia, definitely create like early, the oldest towns. Jericho in Israel stood already 10,000 ago, so 8,000 BC. Çatalhöyük, and also you will see uh, these Turkish excavations built by these Neolithic people, that says that probably these are like early things that people are stable. And also these urban settlements appeared in Malta, for example, in Stonehenge, in Skara in Scotland even, where not only toilet, but all of these together, maybe I should change these, are called megalithic sites. Why? Because all of these all of these places didn't have only villages with houses made of materials they had, but also with the big processed stones. It's really interesting, actually. What I can show you that maybe now I got an idea. Not only essays, but I can give you tasks for younger students that I can show you, like drawing the models of Mesolithic, Neolithic, and Paleolithic Politic settlements, for example. So that can be really interesting. As I said, at the end of the Neolithic, the copper smelting appeared, and plenty of inventions appeared, like wheel, for example. They start to use plow. Some first signs appeared that we can supposed to be proto-writing. Religion, organized religion appeared, and we believe it's kind of like progressive, but again, it proved to be that when people are in need, they create religion only later on. Pottery appeared, so harciarstvo and trade, because some people had animals, some didn't. Some had copper, some didn't, and so on. So when we look at the map, more pictures right now. So Fertile Crescent in here, so from Egypt, Mesopotamia, and this is a place. These are places with early Neolithic settlements where cultivation of barley and wheat was invented. But this is also important, as I told you, that how is a timeline of domestication of animals, and you see that dogs definitely already Mesolithic, and yeah, the most peaceful animals, sheep and goats and cattle and swines and so on, and in various lands and horses, I told you 5,000, camels, turkey and ducks and so on. Interesting thing. Also, the cultivation of barley, it's not so easy, and this interesting. What I like mentioning that if you ever heard about danger of GMO crops, GMO food, so they are genetically modified crops. The point is that these Neolithic people, they try to do it the same, like crossing the breeding, various various plants that could actually survive like a longer period of drought, or they can give you more seeds and so on. And for them, it took about like 5, 6, 10,000 years. For us, we can make it like a couple of years thanks to this. And there are no changes. No, like one ear in the middle will grow for you, another eyes, or you're not going to be mutant, Ninja Turtle, something like that. But this is something that happened, also breeding from a dog to chihuahuas, what we have today. And previous lesson, my chihuahua was barking in here. Neolithic houses, when you compare it to like tents of Mesolithic hunters and gatherers, are very different. Today I read some proposals that it's not only for big families, but a couple of families, but also it was kind of a storage place, but probably even for some ceremonial things. So it was kind of a thing that must be built a big house, really big house with a lot of people around. But this is how maybe settlement of Neolithic period looked like, with some fence or hedge for cattle and people actually farming, with barns in here, and various crops appearing gradually all around the world, with rice and wheat too, with some African crops, and in America very different, of course. Okay, Neolithic expansion appeared in here, and this is also important because you will see that these guys were looking for some good farming land. And when they crossed these mountains of Anatolia and Caucasian, they realized here in Russia that probably it's too cold in winter, so they had to move. When they came to Greece, they realized it's too mountainous, not enough space for everybody. The same in Italy, the same in southern France and Spain. So the biggest Neolithic settlements moved along the plains of the Balkans, but they found excellent place. And if you look closer in here, this is Michalovce, Kráľovský Chlumec, Humenné, so yeah, Košice. So this is the thing that they found excellent place along the Tisa River in eastern Hungary and eastern Slovakia, which is river not too big like the Danube and thus dangerous in the spring, but too warm and warm enough. And if, for example, when you move somewhere in here, it's too cold because there's a lot of raining, and there's actually like a shade and very stable climate. So that's why Barca near Košice in East or Eastern Hungarian, they are the biggest villages, one of the oldest Neolithic villages in Central Europe. Later on, when they moved to Western Europe, it was not so successful, so tried to come back. But this is a Carpathian Basin was the most successful Neolithic territory in here. And together with Çatalhöyük, Göbekli Tepe is another famous locality that was discovered, excavated, and it proved one excellent thing. From the things you saw in here, uh, okay, I don't have commercials, as you realized, because I pay for YouTube every month. But come on, start working, please. Yeah, History channel is called the Hitler's channel, but today it's history channel, because talking about various mystical things. But this is not mystical. This is discovery of place in Turkey that at the beginning they were only like kind of these megalithic sites. Well, that's cool, fine, but they were like 12,000 years old from 10,000 BC. And okay, still okay, it's fine. One of the oldest building in the world, excellent. So they were happy. But as they're gradually uncovering, so they realized they're actually like pillars in they're actually pillars in kind of like a circle. And obviously it's not a house, it looks like a shrine. And on these pillars there are reliefs of animals, but not only like animals for Neolithic part, but even wild animals, even spider and so on. So obviously kind of mythical things and strange creatures or birds, probably hard to say. And what was that? So people believe, yeah, so it was built by some obviously civilization, but civilization appeared like 6,000 years later on. So what was it for? What was the reason? And some explanation were brought when they start to dig also around this shrine, and they realized that there were no cultivated food around. Everything that people who built it, what they eat was from wild animals, from hunted animals. So this is the thing, that obviously this temple, this shrine, praising animals from around, all around the lands, was built by hunters and gatherers before this Neolithic agricultural revolution. It was built by these guys probably in the times of lack of animals. So maybe it was the way how they get this Mesopotamian style, but early civilization. Okay, if I can see something. Okay, not anymore. Doesn't need to show it. But the point is, guys, that hunters and gatherers probably looking for food. They didn't find anything. So there was maybe hoax, but we can call it early religion, appeared that they have to travel, come to this place, and to help with building a shrine, and the gods may bring these animals back again. And while it didn't help them, they had to turn on much more unreliable thing, that was agriculture. Every year it can be bad weather, it can be hot weather, it can be like invasion of grasshoppers, it can be insects, there can be like another tribe invading your lands. So it's very unstable thing, agriculture. And in this way, when hunting is not enough, you can start doing this and also domesticate animals. And this is how some nations decide to more like growing horses and sheep, some of them more like farming lands and having goats and swines and so on. But later on, they start to build up civilization, because living together means protecting together, means to communicate more and build up a whole brand new society in here. Okay, meteorite is not important for us. Dobre, pozriem sa, decka, ešte, že ako stojíme s časom, veľmi rýchlo, takže my máme už len nejakých 5 minút, pozerám. Dobre, ešte nejaké reakcie. No assignments with drawing, please, Veronika nás prosí, or Venn diagrams. Ale také pekné, ja vám ich ukážem na budúci týždeň, ale je dosť možné, že ja inak, že ich zavedím možno na slovenský seminár, niektoré z nich, ale pre vás vyberiem nejaké. Dobre, kreslenie vám teda nedám, ale možno nejaké grafické timeliny alebo čo. Johna Greena vám nedám a kreslenie vám nedám, sľubujem. Dobre? Takže zajte až na budúci rok. Dobre, všetko je to z toho, decka, že my nemôžeme testy písať, ako v teste písali sami, ale viete, že ono sa odpisovať vždy dá, takže preto 130 bodov a také zákerné otázky trošku. OK, 5 minutes. Let's move on from Göbekli Tepe. OK, what do we have? Wikipedia, demagogia, realita. Toto je perfektné, decka. Tento týpek, Dušan Valent, píše aj do historickej revue a otvoril si novú stránku, ako sa to volá, ľudia, mýty a dejiny. No a on je takýto, práve týmto obdobiam sa venuje a rozoberá práve, však ja som ho už podporil, prihlásiť sa do svojho konta, nejdem otvárať, ale hovorí o Göbekli Tepe a čo v podstate o týchto veciach. A som rád, že nevyvrátil žiadnu z mojich vecí, o ktorých som ja hovoril, že to boli lovci a zberači a tak. A až potom, ako postavili ten chrám a nepomohol im, tak začali Oni dobíjať. Dobre, okay, so let's move on. These are pictures that you all know, the Scarabrea from Scotland, the Stone Age. These are not Neolithic, they're even later from Neolithic. It is actually late Stone Age period when some people call it about Chalcolithic age or Neolithic age, or I like to call it the Copper Age because it is still Neolithic period as we know it. But one brand new thing is, čiže najmladšia doba kamena, is that between these 5000 2000 BC, it looks like Neolithic everything, but there was first metal exploitation and smelting and thus forging. For example, the oldest tool that was made of copper was found in Serbia, in Europe, 5,500 years BC. Also, at the same time, like a couple of centuries later on, golden tools, but jewels were found in Bulgaria, at the same time in China and America. I shall talk about Otzi. I will show you the guy who is looking like a Neolithic hunter, but also farmer, and he had a copper knife. So that was cool thing that the only guy surviving, and he had something we believe that only chieftain or shaman could have. The other thing is that during this copper age, Indo-Europeans arrived to Europe, so our ancestors. At the same time, as I told you, from these urban settlements of Neolithic period, early civilizations appeared in Mediterranean, Mesopotamia, China, Egypt, India too. They were first towns, and from towns, city-states, and from city-state states were organized and empires. And all of these, they had to organize themselves, and according to their skills and abilities and heritage, they specialized their labor to be that. But we coming generally when they start to mix copper with tin, and they had this bronze, and that's why we talk about Bronze Age period. But for world history, it's ancient civilizations in Middle East and Mediterranean, and for us, for Slovakia, that would be already still prehistory, but in Slovak. Next lesson, I will tell you. I will briefly go through Slovak prehistory because I need to tell you some more things about even Ötzi and so on, but generally about some environment. Again, there are a lot of pictures around, beautiful pictures for them, but also about Bronze Age period. That is my favorite one, with ramparts already. Yeah, Euro Červenak will mention, Sandra and Sitno, reconstruction of this Lusatian culture, Bronze Age rampart. And this is very big move from early farmers to guys like having swords. The most common Bronze Age sword was made in Lipto, and even in archaeology, world archaeology, they are called swords of Lipto type. But that would be including jewelry and also Iron Age, because we talk about Celts and Scythians and nations that are already named by Greeks and Romans and Dacians and everything. So that will be all next lesson, and Romans too. But as you know, that would be part of okay, that would be part of would be thing that we come in the end about, like the origin of nations and something that we call the ethnogenesis of nations. So how various nations were around, and this is something that you all know. You all have to know. You all know, must, in my opinion, must know, because understanding other countries, other nations, other languages, what do they come from, makes you understand the conflicts, understanding their alliances, affiliation, and makes you excellent historians, diplomats, lawyers, travelers, whatever, just knowing the world. So that is also one of the point of history. Dobre, takže na budúce, decka, pôjdeme teda na tieto ďalšie časti. Asi toto uložím. No a ja si teda prečítam vaše odpovede. Odpovede, zdá sa, že ste tak eseje všetci hovorili. Kto mi nenapísal ešte vašu odpoveď, rýchlo napíšte, prosím, aby som vám nedal teda chýbanie, aj karma. No a to je všetko z mojej strany, takže nezabudnite teda kliknúť leave, no a prajem vám pekný weekend. Have a nice weekend, guys. Stay negative in mind and positive in mind, negative in your test. Bye bye, majte sa.